Karen was always excited about shopping. Even a small trip to the mall could turn into a mini adventure for her. She loved colors, fabrics, and especially designer things. But there was one thing Karen loved more than anything else: handbags. Not just any handbag, but expensive designer handbags that made her feel special and unique. Her husband, Adam, often watched her with a mix of amusement and worry. He didn't always understand the obsession with handbags, but he loved seeing Karen happy. Today was one of those days when Karen's excitement could not be hidden. She had been talking about a particular designer handbag for weeks, a bag that was both beautiful and expensive. "Adam, I really think I should buy it," Karen said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She held her phone tightly, showing him a picture of the handbag. It was sleek, black, and perfectly shaped, a bag that looked like it belonged in a fashion magazine. Adam looked at it carefully. "It's really nice," he said slowly, "but it's very expensive." "Are you sure you want it?" Karen laughed softly. "Of course I'm sure. This is not just a bag. This is an investment in happiness. And I deserve it, don't I?" Adam smiled and nodded. He had learned that arguing with Karen about shopping was never a good idea. Sometimes, the best way to support her was just to say yes. And so, Karen went ahead and bought the handbag. She was thrilled. As soon as the delivery arrived, she carefully unboxed it. The bag smelled of new leather, soft and smooth to touch. Karen ran her fingers along the stitching, examining every little detail. She held it up in front of the mirror, imagining how perfectly it would match her outfits. "This is perfect," she whispered to herself. "Exactly what I wanted." Adam watched her with a quiet smile. He could see her happiness, and that made him happy too. For Karen, this handbag was not just a bag, it was a treasure, a symbol of her hard work, style, and personality. But little did they know that this simple act of buying a handbag would soon turn into a series of unexpected events, chaos, and a lot of stress. Sometimes, it's the small things in life that create the biggest drama, and this was about to be one of those moments. The first few days after buying the handbag were perfect. Karen carried it everywhere. She showed it off to friends, used it for dinners, and even took it for short walks in the park. Everywhere she went, people admired it. Karen felt proud. Adam tried to keep up with her excitement, sometimes joking, sometimes just smiling at her joy. But one afternoon, everything changed. Karen reached for her handbag, ready to go out, and realized something terrifying: her handbag was missing. At first, she thought she might have left it in the car or in the bedroom. She checked the living room, the kitchen, and even the bathroom, everywhere. But the handbag was gone. Panic started to creep in. "Adam! The bag, it's gone." Karen's voice was full of fear and confusion. Adam rushed over. "What do you mean it's gone? Are you sure?" I just had it yesterday. I left it right here." "It's gone!" Karen exclaimed. She felt her heart pounding. How could a bag just disappear? It wasn't just any bag, it was her bag, the one she had dreamed of for weeks. Adam tried to stay calm. Okay, let's think. Maybe it's in the car? Or did you leave it somewhere else?" Karen shook her head violently. "No. I always keep it safe." I don't understand." Her eyes were wide with panic. She retraced every single step she had taken over the last 48 hours. The handbag was nowhere. A sinking feeling started to settle in. What if someone took it? What if it was lost forever? Adam tried to calm her down, but Karen's mind was racing. She imagined the bag in someone else's hands, being used by strangers, her precious handbag gone forever. For Karen, it wasn't just about the money, it was about the feeling of losing something special. And then, just when she was about to give up, Karen remembered something odd. She had seen her neighbor, Mrs. Lewis, looking a little too curious the last time she came over. Karen shook her head. "No, that's impossible. Maybe I'm just imagining things." Even as she tried to calm herself, the panic in her chest didn't go away. The handbag had become the center of her thoughts, her stress, and now, possibly, her secret plan. Little did Adam know, Karen was not only upset, she was also thinking about ways to fix the situation without anyone knowing the truth. Because for Karen, losing a handbag was not just about losing an object. It was about embarrassment, about keeping up appearances, about avoiding the shame of having something expensive disappear mysteriously. As they searched together, Adam noticed the tension building in Karen's face. She was normally cheerful and calm, but now her brows were furrowed, her hands trembling slightly. "Karen, maybe it's just misplaced. Let's check again tomorrow," he said, trying to reassure her. Karen didn't answer. Her mind was already working on different ideas. What if she bought a replacement? What if she pretended it was still there? What if, maybe she could even use a fake one for now? The thought made her nervous, but strangely, also a little excited. Because this handbag was not just a bag. It was the start of a story full of mystery, stress, and unexpected events. And for Karen and Adam, life was about to get much more complicated than they ever imagined. And as the sun set that evening, Karen stared at the empty spot where the handbag had been. A feeling of suspense filled the room, thick and heavy. Something was about to happen, something that would test Karen's cleverness, patience, and maybe even her honesty. Little did they know, this missing handbag would not just create tension, it would turn into a full-blown adventure, full of surprises, confusion, and lessons they would never forget. Karen could not sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her handbag, the one she had just bought, so beautiful, so perfect, gone. She tossed and turned, her mind racing with questions. Where could it be? How could it vanish from her own house? Adam noticed her restlessness. "Karen, try to relax. We'll find it tomorrow," he said gently, though he too felt a little worried. Karen shook her head. "I can't just wait. What if it's stolen? What if someone took it while we weren't paying attention?" Her voice trembled slightly. Adam sighed but decided not to argue. He knew that Karen's mind, once it got fixated on something, would not let it go. The next morning, Karen began her search with renewed energy. She went through every room, looking behind furniture, inside drawers, and even under the sofa cushions. She opened every bag in the house, checked the closets, and even peeked in the laundry basket. But the handbag was nowhere to be found. What if someone saw it and took it? Karen asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She remembered how her neighbor, Mrs. Lewis, had visited last week. There had been a brief moment when Karen noticed her staring at the handbags on the shelf. At the time, Karen thought it was just curiosity, but now, the memory felt different. Adam frowned. "You don't think she could take it, do you?" Karen hesitated. "I don't know. It's just a feeling, maybe I'm overthinking. But something doesn't feel right." The feeling of unease grew stronger as the day went on. Karen started watching every small movement in the house. She noticed the delivery guy lingering a little too long last week, the neighbor borrowing sugar a little too often, even the housemaid moving things in a slightly unusual way. Every small detail that seemed harmless before now looked suspicious. Karen's mind became a whirlwind of theories. Maybe someone had taken the handbag while she was busy in the kitchen. Maybe it had been misplaced in a corner she never thought to look. Or maybe someone close to her had borrowed it without asking. Adam tried to calm her down. "Karen, don't jump to conclusions. It could be here somewhere. Maybe we'll find it in a place you didn't expect." But Karen's thoughts were racing too fast to listen. She imagined the handbag being carried away, someone else showing it off, someone touching the leather she had just fallen in love with. Her stomach churned at the thought. Then came the strange idea that she couldn't shake. What if the handbag was gone for good? Karen felt a mix of panic and embarrassment. She loved the bag, yes, but she also feared the judgment of friends and family. She could hear their voices in her head, asking, "How did you lose such an expensive bag?" The thought alone made her anxious. Karen realized she had to act. She could not simply admit she had lost it. That would be too humiliating. Her mind began working on solutions, wild and daring solutions. She could buy another one and pretend it was the same. She could search the neighborhood, silently observing if anyone had seen her bag. She could even consider something she would normally never do: offer a substitute, a fake one, just to keep appearances. The idea made her feel uneasy, but she could not deny its appeal. In Karen's mind, the handbag had become a symbol of her pride, her style, and her success. Losing it was not just losing an object, it was losing a part of her identity. And Karen was not someone who could accept that easily. Throughout the day, Karen's behavior changed. She became extra careful about everything. She looked over her shoulder more than usual, double-checked doors and windows, and asked Adam to help her recall every visitor they had in the past few days. Each new detail she remembered added fuel to the fire of her suspicion. Even Adam noticed the change. "Karen, you're acting different," he said one evening. "Are you really thinking someone took it, or is this all in your head?" Karen looked at him, her eyes serious. "I don't know, but I can't ignore it. I just can't. Something is wrong, Adam. I can feel it." That evening, Karen sat quietly, thinking. Her mind replayed every moment of the past week, the delivery, the visitors, the small things she had ignored before. Each memory now seemed to hide a clue, a secret that could explain where her handbag had gone. And then, a sudden thought struck her. What if I have to do something bold, something risky, to protect myself? Karen didn't say it out loud. She only stared at the empty spot on the table where her handbag used to sit. Her heart raced. This was no longer just about losing a handbag. It was about mystery, about suspicion, about a challenge she never expected. In the quiet of that night, Karen made a silent promise to herself: she would find the handbag. She would solve the mystery. And if she had to, she would do whatever it took to protect herself and her pride. Little did she know, this determination would lead her into unexpected situations, strange encounters, and decisions that would surprise even her. The handbag, once a simple symbol of happiness, had now become the center of a thrilling mystery. And the story was only beginning. The next morning, Karen woke up with a plan. The handbag was still missing, and the more she thought about it, the more panic twisted inside her. She could not bear the thought of admitting to Adam, or worse, anyone else, that she had lost it. Not yet. Not ever. Karen moved silently around the house, checking every possible hiding place once again. Behind the sofa, under the bed, inside cupboards, nothing. Each empty space made her stomach sink lower. Her beloved handbag was gone. And with it, her peace of mind. Then, as she stared at the empty spot on the table where the bag usually sat, an idea struck her. Bold, unusual, and slightly dangerous, but maybe it would work. She could offer a replacement. Not a real replacement, of course. That would be too obvious. No, she would use a fake one that's similar enough to fool someone at first glance. Maybe Adam wouldn't notice. Maybe she could buy time until she found the real handbag. Karen felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. She had never done anything like this before. But this was different. This was a matter of pride. Of keeping appearances. And, if she was honest, of protecting her secret. By mid-morning, Karen had already prepared the fake handbag. It wasn't perfect, it had slightly different stitching, a different shade of black, but it looked convincing from a distance. She carefully placed it where the real bag used to sit, hoping Adam wouldn't notice the difference immediately. Adam, entering the room with his usual cheerful demeanor, stopped in his tracks. "Karen, is that the handbag?" Karen smiled, trying to keep her voice calm. Yes. Here it is. Right where I left it." Adam looked closely, frowning slightly. Something felt off, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Okay, looks good," he said finally, though a small doubt lingered in his mind. Karen breathed a quiet sigh of relief. So far, so good. But the tension inside her did not go away. She knew this was only temporary. The real handbag was still missing, and every moment she kept up the lie was another step deeper into her own tangled web of stress. As the day went on, Karen became hyper-aware of everything. She watched Adam closely, noting every glance he gave the fake bag. She walked around the house pretending everything was normal, but inside, her mind was racing. What if he notices? What if someone else sees it? What if the bag is gone forever? Then came the unexpected. That afternoon, a small envelope appeared in their mailbox. Curious, Karen opened it carefully. Inside was a note. Sometimes what you lose is closer than you think. Karen's heart skipped a beat. Who could have left this? Was it a neighbor? A prank? Or, her mind raced, the person who had taken her handbag? The message was mysterious, teasing, almost daring her to find out the truth. Adam noticed her sudden stillness. Karen? What is it? Karen looked at him, her eyes wide. It's nothing. Just a note. She tucked it away quickly, not wanting him to ask more questions. But Adam's curiosity had been piqued. He had noticed Karen acting strangely all day, and now a mysterious note only added to his concern. He tried to brush it off, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was happening behind the scenes, a secret he didn't yet understand. Meanwhile, Karen felt both thrilled and terrified. The note had ignited a spark inside her, a sense that the story was bigger than just a missing handbag. Someone, somewhere, knew something. Someone was playing a game with her. And now she had to figure out what it was, before the situation spiraled completely out of control. By evening, Karen had made another bold decision. She would start investigating on her own. She would retrace every step, watch every visitor, and carefully observe every person who came near the house. She could no longer rely on luck. She had to rely on herself. Adam, sensing the change in Karen's mood, tried to intervene. Karen, maybe we should call the police or ask for help? Karen shook her head firmly. No, Adam. This is private. I'll handle it. Her voice was determined, almost fierce. She could feel her confidence rising. The handbag had brought her more than stress, it had awakened a side of her she had never seen before. A side that was clever, cautious, and fearless when it came to protecting what she valued. Little did Karen know, her plan with the fake handbag, combined with her new investigation, would soon lead to even more unexpected events. Visitors acting strangely, clues that didn't make sense, and moments where she would have to act quickly to hide the truth, all were waiting just around the corner. And so, as the house grew quiet that night, Karen sat with her fake handbag by her side, her mind spinning with possibilities. She was determined to uncover the mystery, no matter what it took. And in the shadows of that quiet home, the tension grew, thick and electric, as if the handbag itself were watching, waiting to reveal its secrets. For Karen, the adventure was only beginning, and the next twist, she realized, might be closer than she thought. The next morning, Karen woke up with a sharper focus. The fake handbag sat neatly on the table, but she could no longer ignore the growing sense that something, or someone, was watching her. It wasn't just the missing real handbag anymore. There was a tension in the air, a feeling that the ordinary calm of her home had been replaced by something unusual, almost invisible but undeniable. Karen paced the living room slowly, thinking back over the last few days. Every detail now seemed significant, the delivery guy lingering a little too long, Mrs. Lewis asking too many questions about her shopping, even the housemaid who had been moving things for cleaning in unusual patterns. Her mind connected the dots, and the unease in her stomach grew heavier. Adam noticed her behavior. Karen, you look tense. Are you still worried about the handbag? Karen shook her head, but she didn't speak. How could she explain the complexity of her feelings? It wasn't just worry, it was suspicion, paranoia, and a growing determination to uncover the truth. Karen decided to take action. She began retracing her steps from the past week, starting with the day she bought the handbag. She remembered setting it down on the kitchen counter, then moving to the living room, and finally placing it on the small table by the window. The last time she saw it clearly, the sunlight hit the leather perfectly, showing off its shine. Now, that same spot was empty, occupied only by the fake handbag. As she examined the table, Karen noticed something she had never seen before, a small scratch on the wooden surface, almost like something had been dragged across it. Her heart skipped a beat. Could this be a clue? Was the bag taken, or had it fallen somewhere? Karen's curiosity grew stronger. She checked the floor carefully, and there it was, a small piece of black leather, torn from the edge of her handbag. She picked it up slowly, turning it over in her hands. The realization hit her like a jolt. The handbag hadn't just vanished by accident. Someone had been near it. Someone had touched it. Adam, noticing her focus, walked over. Karen, what's that? Karen held up the tiny leather piece. Look, Adam. This wasn't here before. Someone has been near the handbag. This proves it. Adam's eyes widened. Are you sure? Maybe it just got damaged accidentally. Karen shook her head firmly. No. I'm sure. This is more than an accident. Something is happening, and I need to figure it out. Determined, Karen began a subtle investigation. She started watching everyone around her carefully. Mrs. Lewis came over later that day, just as she often did, asking for sugar and small favors. Karen noticed the way her neighbor's eyes lingered on the fake handbag, the slight hesitation before she answered questions, the nervous movement of her hands. It was small, almost imperceptible, but Karen's instincts told her it was important. Even the housemaid seemed different that day, unusually quiet, her eyes darting around the room. Karen felt her mind working at full speed. Something is happening. Someone knows something. I have to be careful. Karen decided to test her theory. She casually mentioned the handbag in a conversation with Adam while Mrs. Lewis was present. I still can't believe the bag is gone, she said aloud, keeping her tone casual but letting just enough worry slip in to seem natural. Mrs. Lewis's eyes flicked quickly toward the fake handbag, and for a moment, Karen caught a tiny smirk almost imperceptible. But it was enough. Enough to confirm that her suspicion was not unfounded. Someone out there knew more than they were saying. Karen felt a shiver run down her spine. She realized this situation had grown bigger than she expected. The handbag, which had started as a simple shopping purchase, had become a puzzle, a mystery, a test of her patience and cunning. Whoever was behind it was clever, but Karen was clever too. And she was ready to find out the truth. By evening, Karen had made a decision. She would set a little trap, subtle but effective. She placed the fake handbag in a slightly different spot, one that allowed her to watch from the kitchen without being seen. Every movement in the room became a potential clue. Every glance, a possible confession. Adam watched her silently, sensing both tension and excitement. He didn't know exactly what she was planning, but he could see Karen's mind racing, working, hunting for the truth. Night fell, and the house grew quiet. Karen remained alert, listening for the slightest noise. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper outside the window, made her heart jump. She was close, she could feel it. The handbag, the mystery, the person responsible, it was all about to reveal itself. And in that quiet, tense moment, Karen realized something crucial. This wasn't just about a missing bag anymore. This was about her pride, her cleverness, and her ability to handle a problem that no one else could solve. Whoever thought they could confuse her had underestimated her. And Karen was ready to prove that she was not so easily fooled. The suspense hung in the air like a thick fog. The fake handbag gleamed under the dim light, a silent bait, a promise that the truth was just within reach. And Karen, determined and watchful, knew that the next moment could change everything. Because in the world of missing handbags, nothing is ever simple, and every clue could either bring her closer to the truth, or push her deeper into the mystery. Karen's mind raced all morning. The small leather piece she had found, the suspicious behavior of Mrs. Lewis, and even the housemaid's unusual quietness had created a tangled web in her head. Today, she decided, she would confront the mystery head-on. The fake handbag would be her secret weapon, a decoy, a trap, a way to test everyone around her. She moved through the house with deliberate calm, carrying herself as if everything were normal. The fake handbag sat prominently on the table, gleaming under the morning sunlight, catching the attention of anyone who entered the room. Karen's eyes flicked toward it constantly, ready to see any reaction. The first visitor of the day was Mrs. Lewis. She arrived as usual, chatting about mundane things, the weather, the neighbors, and some recent shopping news. Karen smiled politely, keeping her tone casual, but her mind was sharp. She waited for the slightest sign, a glance, a twitch, a pause. And then she saw it. Mrs. Lewis's eyes lingered too long on the fake handbag. Just a second, barely noticeable, but it was there. Karen's heart skipped. A tiny smirk appeared on Mrs. Lewis's lips for an instant before she quickly masked it. Karen's instincts screamed, this was it. This was the reaction she had been waiting for. Mrs. Lewis, Karen said casually, walking closer to the table, what do you think of this handbag? Isn't it beautiful? Mrs. Lewis hesitated, and Karen leaned in slightly, just enough to create tension. I wonder, it looks familiar somehow, Mrs. Lewis said, nervously laughing. Karen's smile was sweet but sharp. Familiar? Really? Maybe you've seen it somewhere before, her voice trailed off, leaving the statement hanging in the air like a challenge. The subtle confrontation worked. Mrs. Lewis shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting toward the door as if considering an escape. Karen's heart pounded. She could feel the power in that moment, the tension, the uncertainty, the tiny spark of victory. Before Karen could press further, the housemaid quietly entered with a tray of tea. Karen noticed her hands tremble slightly as she set the cups down, glancing at the fake handbag. Even the maid seemed uneasy. Karen realized her plan was working. The handbag, even in its fake form, had created a ripple of tension among everyone in the house. Karen decided it was time to escalate. You know, she said casually, it's strange how things disappear sometimes. You think they're safe, and then, they vanish. Her eyes flicked toward the fake handbag, letting the weight of her words sink in. Mrs. Lewis shifted uncomfortably again. Disappear? What do you mean? She asked, her voice a little higher than usual. Karen's smile widened. Oh, I don't know. Sometimes people misplace things. Sometimes, they take them without telling anyone. Her tone was light, teasing, but the underlying warning was unmistakable. The room went silent for a moment. Even Adam, who had been watching quietly from the sofa, could feel the tension. Karen had created a subtle storm, a game of observation and fear, and it was working perfectly. Then came the unexpected twist. Just as Karen was about to confront Mrs. Lewis further, she noticed a small movement near the window. A shadow flickered outside, and Karen instinctively stepped closer to investigate. To her surprise, it was the delivery guy from last week, peeking in as if he had some interest in the handbag. Karen's mind raced. Was he involved? Or just curious? She could not tell yet. But one thing was clear, the handbag, real or fake, had become the center of everyone's attention. And now, the mystery was bigger than she had imagined. Feeling a mix of determination and amusement, Karen decided it was time to escalate the drama. She casually picked up the fake handbag and pretended to examine it, her eyes flicking toward Mrs. Lewis and the maid. I just can't understand how someone could lose something so valuable. Maybe I need to keep a closer eye on it. The effect was immediate. Mrs. Lewis looked nervous, the maid stiffened, and Adam's eyebrows shot up. Karen smiled to herself. The fake handbag had done its job, it had created tension, revealed reactions, and made everyone aware that Karen was no ordinary person, they could not fool her. And yet, beneath the thrill of her cleverness, Karen felt a pang of worry. The real handbag was still missing, and she knew the drama was far from over. The fake handbag had bought her time, yes, but it had also raised the stakes. Whoever had taken or even touched the real handbag would now be more careful. The game had escalated, and Karen would have to be sharper than ever. As the day ended, Karen sat with the fake handbag on her lap, thinking about the next steps. She knew one thing for certain, this story was no longer just about a bag. It was about cleverness, observation, and survival in a world where even small things could create chaos. And deep down, she couldn't help but feel a thrill at the drama she had created. The fake handbag, the confrontations, the tension, it was all part of a bigger game. and Karen, for better or worse, was in control, at least for now. The suspense hung thick in the air, like the calm before a storm. The next move, Karen realized, could change everything. One wrong step, one missed clue, and the mystery could unravel or the truth could finally be revealed. The next morning, Karen woke up with a sense of determination stronger than ever. The fake handbag had served its purpose. It had bought her time, revealed reactions, and put everyone on edge, but now, she knew it was time to find the real handbag. No more tricks, no more distractions. This was the moment to solve the mystery. Karen's mind raced as she retraced every step she had taken since buying the handbag. She remembered the unboxing, the way she had placed it on the table, and the brief moments when she had carried it around the house. Something tugged at the back of her mind, a small detail she hadn't noticed before. Adam, sensing her intensity, asked gently, "Karen, are you sure you want to search again? We've looked everywhere." Karen shook her head, her eyes fierce. "No, Adam. We haven't looked everywhere. There's one place we didn't check carefully. The garage." Adam raised his eyebrows. The garage? They had been there before, but only briefly. Karen explained, "I sometimes take bags out when I reorganize things. Maybe I accidentally left it there." With a mix of hope and dread, Karen and Adam went to the garage. Karen flipped the light switch, and the dim bulb flickered to life, casting long shadows across boxes, tools, and bags stacked haphazardly. Her heart raced. Every corner could hide the handbag or a new surprise. Karen started searching systematically. She opened boxes, moved old furniture, and checked shelves. Adam helped, but Karen's eyes were sharp, scanning for anything unusual. And then, she saw it. At the very back of the garage, behind a pile of boxes she had forgotten about, a corner of black leather peeked out. Karen froze. Her fingers trembled as she reached in, and there it was. The handbag. The real one. Perfect, untouched, sitting as if it had been waiting for her all along. Tears of relief welled up in her eyes. Karen held the handbag close, running her fingers over the soft leather, inhaling the familiar scent. "I found it. I really found it," she whispered, her voice shaking with a mixture of relief and joy. Adam came closer, smiling broadly. "Karen! You found it!" Karen nodded, almost speechless. "It was here the whole time, in the garage. I can't believe I didn't check properly before." But just as relief washed over her, Karen noticed something odd. The handbag had a tiny scratch on one corner, different from the piece of leather she had found earlier. Someone had touched it, maybe accidentally, maybe intentionally. A shiver ran down her spine. The mystery was almost solved, but not completely. Karen realized that while the handbag was back, the drama wasn't entirely over. Someone had been near it. Someone had created tension, even fear, over something that had been in her own house the whole time. And now, she had to decide how to handle the situation. Later that evening, Karen shared the discovery with Adam. They laughed at the chaos it had caused, the fake handbag, and the wild theories Karen had concocted. But Karen also felt a strange mix of pride and amusement. She had navigated the tension, observed everyone's reactions, and ultimately solved the mystery. Even Mrs. Lewis's and the maid's strange behaviors now made sense. They had simply been curious, unaware of the real situation. And the delivery guy? Probably just coincidental timing. The mystery had seemed larger than life, but in the end, it had a simple explanation. Karen held the handbag in her hands and smiled. "It caused so much chaos, but I guess that's what makes it special," she said. Adam laughed. "Special indeed. But maybe next time, we'll just put it on a high shelf, okay?" Karen laughed too, but inside, she felt a thrill. The handbag was back, but the adventure, the drama, and the cleverness it had inspired would stay with her. She had learned something valuable, not just about being careful with things, but about observation, strategy, and handling unexpected situations with calm and wit. That night, as Karen placed the handbag carefully on the table, she realized that this small object had taught her something bigger. Sometimes, the things we lose aren't just objects, they're lessons in patience, intelligence, and resilience. And as the house grew quiet, Karen felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The handbag was back. The mystery was solved. And though the fake handbag had created tension, and the clues had caused worry, she had come out on top clever, calm, and victorious. But deep down, Karen knew one thing: this adventure had changed her. She had discovered a side of herself that was observant, brave, and strategic. And who knew? Maybe the next handbag or the next little adventure would be even more exciting. The morning after the real handbag was discovered, Karen felt a mix of relief and amusement. The drama, the tension, and the panic of the past week seemed almost unreal now. She looked at the handbag, sitting safely on the table, and smiled. All this fuss for a bag? She thought. Adam entered the room, coffee in hand, and saw Karen staring at her handbag. "Morning, detective," he teased. "Found any more clues in the house?" Karen laughed, shaking her head. "No, but I feel like I could start my own investigation agency after this week." She gestured toward the fake handbag, which sat nearby like a loyal decoy. "And this little guy deserves a medal for all the chaos it caused." Adam chuckled. "Well, at least we know one thing for sure: the handbag stays on the high shelf from now on." Karen nodded, but deep down, she knew the handbag had taught her more than just caution. It had reminded her about observation, clever thinking, and patience. Even a small object could create drama, reveal character, and test how someone handles unexpected situations. As the day went on, Karen thought about the curious behaviors of Mrs. Lewis, the housemaid, and even the delivery guy. She realized that the tension they had felt was part of the story too. Everyone had unknowingly played a role in this little adventure. She smiled at the memory of Mrs. Lewis's smirk and the maid's nervous glances. They had been unintentional actors in her personal drama. Karen decided to have a little fun. Later that afternoon, she invited Mrs. Lewis over. With a mischievous grin, Karen placed the handbag on the table real this time and casually asked, "What do you think of my new collection?" Mrs. Lewis blinked, puzzled. "Collection?" Karen laughed, holding up both the real handbag and the fake one. "Yes. One is the real treasure, and one is a story maker." She winked. Mrs. Lewis laughed too, realizing she had been part of Karen's little experiment all along. The tension melted into shared amusement. Adam watched from the sofa, shaking his head with a smile. "You really know how to turn a simple thing into a full adventure." Karen shrugged, feeling proud. Well, it wasn't just any handbag. It was a challenge, a mystery, and a lesson all in one. That evening, Karen carefully placed the real handbag in a special spot, safe, visible, but out of reach of curious hands. The fake handbag, meanwhile, found its place in the corner as a reminder of the week's chaos. As the house grew quiet, Karen reflected on what she had learned. She realized the handbag wasn't just about fashion, luxury, or pride. It was about patience, cleverness, and resilience. She had faced panic, suspicion, and uncertainty, but she had handled it with calm determination and wit. And most importantly, she had learned to laugh at the little dramas life throws your way. Even chaos could be funny when seen with perspective. The handbag had vanished, created panic, revealed hidden tensions, and yet, it had returned safely, reminding Karen that every problem, no matter how big or small, could be solved with patience, observation, and a little clever thinking. Before bedtime, Karen shared a moment with Adam. "You know," she said, "I think the handbag did more for me than I ever imagined. It reminded me of something important. Sometimes the smallest things teach the biggest lessons." Adam smiled, wrapping his arm around her shoulder. "Well, you definitely turned a missing handbag into an adventure. But next time, let's just keep the mystery out of the house, okay?" Karen laughed, resting her head on his shoulder. "Agreed. But somehow, I think I'll miss the excitement." The handbag, gleaming under the soft light, sat silently on the table, a symbol of drama, cleverness, and the little adventure that had changed a simple week into a story worth remembering. And so, Karen's week-long handbag mystery came to an end, leaving laughter, lessons, and memories behind. The story had twists, suspense, and clever moves, But in the end, it reminded her, and everyone who witnessed it, that life's little dramas are sometimes the most memorable adventures of all.